Hi, I'm Andrew, and this is I Know Nothing. Ugh. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. I'm excited to show you this one because after a few days of hard work, we finally got the engine out of the car. In this video, I'm not going to show you every single bolt that I removed, but I will show you all the main things. I want to get right into it this time so you can see how I did it. The first thing I wanted to do was remove as much fuel from the fuel tank as I could, and I know this isn't necessary to do when removing the motor, but I wanted to remove as much weight from the rear as I could, so when I take the motor and transmission out of the front, it's less likely to tip on the quick jacks. Second reason is I'm not sure when I'm going to be dropping the fuel tank, so I just figured while I'm doing all the fluid removal in this video, I might as well do the gas as well. This rubber hose was very stuck on there. I mean, as it should, as it's trying to, keep fumes in and whatnot. But as you can see here, I get behind it pretty well and it does not want to come off. So I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna siphon out the gas instead. Here I am feeding in the siphon tube down into the tank. This took a lot of wiggling and moving around to try to get in there, and as you can see right there, I had to duct tape two tubes together to get it to be long enough to reach all the way into the tank. But after a bunch of wiggling it around, I finally got it to seat all the way. Then it was just a matter of a bunch of pumping, a bunch of waiting for gravity to do its work. Eventually though, I got as much as I could out of the tank, so I just called it good for now. Next up, it was time to drain the oil, so I went after the drain plug and it was pretty tight, so I used a couple taps from a rubber mallet to get it loose, and then I was able to take it out and drain the oil. Next, of course, is the oil filter, and this one was pretty stuck on there too, but after a few good tries, I got it to move. Once that was done, it was time to start draining the coolant. The coolant quickly became my least favorite part of this whole job. It just seemed like everything I took off on the car, more coolant kept coming out, and there's just endless supply of it. I obviously don't have the correct pliers to be working those clamps, but I made do with what I had. This hose was a little stuck at first, but as you can see, it started dripping fairly quickly, and then eventually I was able to get the whole thing off, and almost all the coolant just dumped right out. While I waited for the coolant to drain, I figured it'd be a good time to start working on something else, so here I am starting to remove the bolts from the air intake system. Now in order to get at the lower part of the intake, I need to remove this lower front driver's side wheel well liner. As you can see, I'm cranking pretty hard on these pins here against the bumper. If this was a bumper I was keeping, I wouldn't be, prying so hard, or I'd get a towel in there or something, but this bumper was in the accident, as you can see right here in this shot. So I'm not keeping the bumper. I'm going to be putting a body kit on the car anyways. So I was fine just cranking those pins out. Here I am removing the rest of the bolts from this liner, and then we'll be able to get at the underside of the intake. I needed a second set of hands to remove the hood, so here's my wife and I doing just that. And there's my little garage helper. After the hood was removed, I removed this thing in the back that I don't remember what it's called. It has to do with the throttle body. I'm sure someone in the comments can let me know what it is. I don't know if it's a throttle body module or something. I'm not sure. But you can see the throttle cable right there is attached to it. And then of course the throttle body goes as well. The nut on the end of this fuel rail was really difficult to get off. That thing was really tight. But as you can see, I eventually did get it off, and I was able to pop off the fuel line. And I wasn't sure how much fuel was going to come out, so I had a ton of towels here. If I was smart, I would have, pulled the fuel pump fuse or something while the car was running and let it stall to kind of relieve pressure and, any fuel that you can see obviously coming out here. But I'm not smart, and this worked just fine too. After the fuel rail was removed, I went after the intake manifold bolts, and as you can see from this shot here, the intake area in general is absolutely disgusting. Just years of grime buildup. The power steering pump there was leaking in that general area, so that was getting some of it. I'll show you a closer up shot once I get this intake manifold removed, but yeah, it was pretty gross. Here we can see that close-up shot that I was talking about. As you can see, these intake ports are absolutely disgusting. But it was kind of cool to see into, the valve chamber and see the valves and whatnot. It's not too bad down by the valves, but up by the opening of the port, it's pretty bad. And you can see there how the power steering pump was leaking. Next, I'm going to be working on removing as much of the transmission fluid as I can. I'm just going to loosen these bolts slowly, one by one, in one area first, as you can see here, just so I can slowly let it start dripping. I don't want to remove this pan as a whole because I don't have a drain pan big enough to catch all that, and it would probably be a big mess. So I'm just letting it slowly drip like this over time, just emptying out as much as I can. While I let the transmission fluid slowly drain, I'm going to go back up top and start working on this exhaust manifold heat shield. I was able to impact the first bolt out, but the second bolt and the third bolt were too deep in the engine bay to get the impact in there, so I just whipped out the ratcheting wrench. Next, I got to work removing the brake master cylinder, and to be honest, I didn't really know what to expect here because I had never worked with any sort of brake master cylinder or brake lines before. So I honestly thought that when I removed this, a bunch of brake fluid was going to come pouring out. That's not what happened, luckily, but as you can see, I was throwing some paper towels down in there, and in a different shot you'll see I have more paper towels. Right here, I'm removing the master cylinder, and I was surprised to see that nothing dripped out at all. Next, I moved on to the brake lines, and here's where you can see I got more paper towels because I was sure that something's got to leak out. I did not have a flare nut wrench to use on these nuts, but I just clamped down really hard with the vice grips and, crossed my fingers, and it worked out fine. Of course, 3 out of the 4 lines came out just fine, but this last one was very stuck on there, so I really had to clamp down on it with the vice grips, and eventually I got it, but you can kind of see in the video a little bit here that the nut's a little misshapen now. I eventually got it out, and we were able to remove the whole master cylinder, but I was a little worried about that one for a second. Now that the transmission fluid is done draining, I got to work cleaning up the area and then reinstalling all of the bolts. Here you can see I'm removing the power steering pump. This one was really easy. It was just 2 bolts and it popped right off. Now through the magic of editing, I removed the bumper just by pulling on it. Next comes the styrofoam bumper absorber. And after that is the steel bumper bar underneath everything. Headlights are next. Super easy, just remove the bolts and then twist the bulbs out and there you go. Watch how easy this coolant tank comes out. Now I'm removing what I believe is the transmission fluid cooler. Correct me if I'm wrong, but getting this large piece out of the way to get at the radiator. With that out of the way, I'm now able to remove the radiator, and as you can see here, when I remove it, more coolant starts leaking out, so I just kind of set it to the side for a second and let it drain. With those two pieces out, I can now remove the lower radiator support bar. This was the first real test that I had given my new Impact, and let me tell you what, this thing is my new favorite tool. Those axle nuts were rusted on, and it made short work of them. I love this thing. After the axle nut, I went after the two strut bolts so I could remove the knuckle from the strut. And with a bunch of work that I'm not showing here because it was a lot, I was finally able to get the first axle out. After the first axle comes the second, and once again this Impact just did not care about this axle nut. It made short work of it. I'm hammering these bolts out here because I don't care about saving them or saving the strut or anything with the knuckle or anything. It's all getting replaced. Here you can see me struggle with the bolts that connect the exhaust pipe to the exhaust manifold. I'm not surprised, it's an old car. I was expecting them to be pretty rusted on. And with that, we are finally on to removing our first motor mount bolt. This one is the passenger side lower motor mount. Next, you can see me trying to squeeze in here with a wrench to get the bolts out of the upper driver's side transmission mount. It's very tight in here, took a lot of just short turns with the wrench. After a few more bolts, we are finally onto the very last bolt that we were taking out here. I was impacting out the passenger side upper motor mount. With all the bolts finally out, we were able to start slowly lifting the motor out of the engine bay using the hoist. It took quite a bit of wiggling and maneuvering and, prying with the pry bar. We're using the leveler on top, you can see there. All in all, it took quite a bit of time, but I didn't want to cut anything out of here. I'm just going to leave it in fast forward because I want to show the whole process of how we got it out and show how tedious something like this can be.
Fishing photo.
Yeah. that should be the thumbnail. Yeah. All right. Memorial Day 2026. Just pulled my first motor ever and transmission. Hell yeah, dude. Look at that. She is out. That is crazy for me to see. I've never pulled a motor before. So it's a big accomplishment, milestone for me. Super excited to get that thing in there. That's it, everyone. I'm going to try to list this girl on Facebook Marketplace. Hopefully someone wants her and comes to pick it up. The next video I'm going to need to get a welder for because we are going to be building a rolling chassis or cart, if you will, to put the subframe and new motor on. Speaking of that video, in the next coming weeks here, I'm going to be creating a poll online of what we should name that cart or rolling chassis. So submit your suggestions in the comments and maybe you'll see it in the poll. Other than that, thanks for watching and see you on the next one. So hard.
I'm dying in here. I think I broke one. I picked up the only one that was broken. Is this still recording?
Yes!
Okay, keep this.